Even though being a mother is the best thing ever, the institution of motherhood, as it is designed in our Western society, leaves much to be desired in general. And as a high IQ mother, I was noticing that I was having some unique challenges that my peers weren't facing. So I designed some systems that would support me. And so in this video, I'm going to share my personal experience as a high IQ mother and the struggles that do come with it. I am also going to share the systems I've designed to support myself in those struggles to get to a place where I not only consistently feel like a wonderful mother, and trust me, it was not always that way, but I also deeply enjoy motherhood and have space to pursue what's important to me. I hope that in sharing this, any mom or moms to be who are watching can learn something that they can implement in their own lives. So, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Janelle Lara, and I'm a mom and wife who has been in the online world in some capacity or another since 2018. Now I'm pursuing a doctorate in theology with the intention of reconciling Christian theology and alternative spirituality. And I started this channel to both share my findings, but also to create a space for intelligent Christian women with an interest in alternative spirituality to gather, because I quickly realized that there are not many of those spaces. And so if that's you, please subscribe and check out my other videos when you are done watching this one, because I think you'll find that I share a different perspective than most when it comes especially to Christianity, motherhood, and alternative spirituality. But without further ado, let's get to the realities of high IQ motherhood. So, the first unfortunate reality is that whenever you talk about intelligence as an intelligent person, people just don't like it. So, a part of me was concerned that by sharing this video, it would seem like I was bragging. And so, I want to start by clarifying that a higher IQ does not mean that someone is better or more worthy than another. There are many different types of intelligence, and IQ covers just a few of them. So, if you listen to this video and you find that you actually can't relate to what I'm saying, that does not make you at all inferior. I'm also not asking anyone to feel bad for me or for other high IQ mothers out there. I fully recognize that having a high IQ is a gift from God and it's a blessing. The fact of the matter is that it does make some aspects of motherhood harder, but I'm not complaining, right? I'm just speaking for myself. And, when I encountered these challenges on my own motherhood journey, and before I had connected the dots, I thought that there was something fundamentally wrong with me. And when I wasn't the mom that I always imagined I'd be, I started to feel like I wasn't good enough. And sometimes I wished I wasn't this way. I thought that if only I were different, then my children would have the mother they deserve. Those were hard things to experience, and I don't want anyone else to feel the way that I did. I don't want other women to have to figure things out the hard way. So that's why I created this video. Not to brag, but because I truly hope that it helps you to realize that you're not alone. There's nothing fundamentally wrong with you, and you are a great mom. There is a reason God chose you to mother his precious children, and I hope that by sharing my story, you don't feel so alone. Okay, so very quickly, since if you're watching this, you're a smart cookie and you probably already know this, I'm going to quick review what IQ is and what constitutes a high IQ. So IQ is a measure of a person's cognitive abilities in relation to others, and it's typically based on age, and it quantifies a person's intellectual potential and problem-solving abilities through standardized tests that might be administered by a school or by a psychologist. And the score is derived by comparing an individual's performance to a statistical average. So basically, a high IQ means your problem solving, reasoning, and learning capabilities are significantly above the norm. I was given a test when I was 16. It was administered in a high school psychology class, but many schools don't test anymore. So you may have never received one. But as a hint, if you've ever taken an SAT or GRE test, those are basically IQ tests. So your score on those might be able to give you a clue, but not always, because teenagers are not known for doing their best on those exams. I know for myself, I usually showed up to a standardized test like the SAT after staying up too late, not eating breakfast, and not studying at all. So to say that I underperformed is an understatement. However, if you have taken an IQ test, then you would have received a score which indicates your level, and the scores are as follows. So an average IQ is 90 to 109, which is the majority of the population. Above average, 110 to 119. High IQ, 120 to 129. very high 130 to 139, which is gifted, and then a genius or exceptional IQ is 140 and above, and that's less than 1% of the population. So for the purposes of this conversation, I'm going to consider an IQ of 125 or higher a high IQ. So that constitutes about 5% of the population of both men and women. If you already know that you have an IQ above 125, maybe because you took a test of some sort, would you comment down below or just drop an emoji? With so few of us, it can be hard to find one another, and I'd love to help you find your tribe right here. Because schools don't often test anymore, you might not actually know for sure, but you might have an inkling. So if you have that inkling, here are some clues that I have found in my own personal experience that may indicate that you have a high IQ. So the number one easiest giveaway is, do you talk to yourself? Out loud and without a diagnosis. We're not bipolar. So I know for myself, sometimes I struggle on like long car rides, right? Because I'm trying to work something out in my brain and I feel frustrated because I can't think out loud. Depending on what you're talking about with yourself, these conversations can be sometimes in depth or intense. Maybe you're talking out loud because you're play acting a conversation that you're anticipating having or afraid to have, or you're just working something out in your brain, or maybe you're just even trying to remember something important or memorize a sequence. But the point is, especially when you're alone, you find yourself in conversation with you. Another dead giveaway is that you like to have a lot going on at the same time. But I don't want this to be confused with the ADHD mother. So I have definitely felt like I've had ADHD during moments of my motherhood journey, and I'm pretty sure I actually did have postpartum ADHD, but this is not the same. While many people with ADHD are highly intelligent and have very high IQs, what I'm discussing here is not a compulsion to many things at once or an inability to focus, but rather it's a drive to do many things at once, right? It's not the inability to focus because everything in your brain is happening at the same time. It's the ability to switch in and out of deep focus across topics very quickly and without dropping balls too often. So, of course, we are human. We forget things every once in a while, but you are probably pretty good if you have a high IQ, maintaining multiple schedules and priorities with minimal external reminders. So let's say you have like 2 calendars and a couple of alarms throughout the week, right? And you're able to maintain those multiple schedules and priorities while at the same time engaging in deep work, deep thinking, and projects that require intense focus. And you actually enjoy doing all of that at the same time. Highly intelligent people love problem solving. So you might be attempting to accomplish something great, like writing a book, starting a business, excelling in a hobby, or achieving great heights in your career, or getting an advanced degree like I am, all while accomplishing the same things everyone else does, and frankly, what others find overwhelming in and of themselves, like taking care of your children, your household, your health, maintaining a healthy marriage, and making time for supportive friendships. So I will say that speaking for myself, when I went back to school to pursue my doctorate in theology, my youngest was only 17 months old, and my husband's family seemed concerned because they thought I was taking on too much. I was already running a successful marketing company. I had 3 small kids, and we're a more traditional family. So for the most part, I manage my home, and it was difficult for my husband to explain to them that I simply have a higher capacity for performance than most people. And it's even uncomfortable for me just saying that, but of course I don't do it alone, right? Like I have his help and I have an amazing village. I'm only human. But the fact of the matter is that I am able to accomplish more than the average person. And so you might have the same experience. People might seem odd by how much you do and manage on a daily basis. But what they don't realize is that this is just an indication of your high IQ. And this leads me to giveaway number 3. You're bored. Your mind works faster than most people's, and so the mundanity of the day in and day out it doesn't stimulate you enough. You are constantly seeking mental challenges, new problems to solve, and ways to sharpen your intellectual prowess. If someone asks you, what are you reading? You always have an answer, and it may be multiple books at the same time. If someone were to ask, what are you thinking about? What are you working out in your brain right now? What are you mulling over? You always have an answer because our brains are pretty consistently attempting to work out the problems that we see in the world, which relate to our unique broader interests. This makes you an excellent conversationalist, but it may lead to some feelings of isolation in social settings, which brings me to number 4, you deeply struggle with small talk. You've probably observed others and memorized modes of operation and best practices in social situations, And yes, those of us with a high IQ most likely had to very intentionally study and learn how to be adept socially. But once you get past your initial small talk script, it all just kind of feels empty. And often when you try to press for more interesting topics by asking someone what they're reading or if they're working on something interesting, they may come up dry. And I want to add here that part of being intelligent means knowing that everyone has some sort of genius inside of them and we can learn from literally anyone. But the thing is, many people don't even know what their own genius is. Many people are just trying to survive the day to day that they don't give themselves the opportunity to recognize what lights them up. So oftentimes conversations with tends to stick to family gossip, the latest popular TV show, or worse, all their problems that they refuse to solve, which is not at all what you want to talk about. Finally, the fifth way you might realize that you have a high IQ, did you excel in the subjects that you took a profound interest in and found that they came easier and faster to you than they did to other people? I will never forget a student that I taught many years ago. He was from Russia and he had okay grades, mostly because he found school so incredibly boring. He would sit in class and code all day. It was fascinating to watch. And he would only halfway try on tests. Mostly he would just do enough to get by. But I will never forget when he was truly interested in a subject. He would perk up, listen intently, and ask deep questions far beyond what any other high schooler was thinking about. And I remember seeing that and thinking to myself, that is true genius. The ability to be so fundamentally curious and ask amazing questions. Okay, so is any of this sounding familiar? If you are thinking, oh my gosh, you just described me, let me know in the comments because I want to know if you all do this too. Please tell me I'm not the only one. So again, if you relate to most or all of these points and you're a mother, you're probably a high IQ mom, which means you probably face some unique challenges. So let's go ahead and discuss these now. Okay, here are 5 struggles a high IQ mom might face. Number 1, intellectual isolation. This is a challenge because many high IQ moms might feel unfulfilled or isolated when their days revolve around tasks that don't stimulate their minds. You know the drill. Meal prep, diaper changes, repetitive conversations with young children. Now, here's the thing. Many women might struggle with this, not just high IQ women, because the fact of the matter is that taking care of young kids is hard. But the difference is that you don't necessarily just want a break so that you can go and doom scroll TikTok or catch up on Netflix, although we do enjoy some of that too. But you need a project. You need to be building, creating, problem solving, working towards something. You crave deep work and meaningful conversations or challenges that aren't always readily available in the chaos of family life. The second struggle is perfectionism and overanalysis. So, high intelligence often comes with a tendency towards perfectionism, which makes you overanalyze your parenting choices and feel extremely guilty about your perceived shortcomings. Now, again, I know that this in and of itself isn't necessarily unique because ideally all moms strive to do their best, but high IQ moms might hold themselves to impossibly high standards while other moms just let things slide. So if you find yourself holding on to guilt, sometimes for years, because of things that other moms don't even think about, that may be because you're using your brain against yourself. Number 3, you struggle with a strong need for alone time or at least uninterrupted silent time. So again, high IQ moms have strong intellectual or creative passions. We want to research, write, maybe we have hobbies that we want to dive into. And so you need a lot of time to think and to work things out in your brain. And I know for myself, I really loved the newborn and baby phases of motherhood. Like, give me a sweet little chunk to kiss and hold all day long. And the benefit of that time, too, is that they sleep a lot. However, my struggles as a mother began when they started talking and expected an answer. The frustration that I experienced came from I'd be trying to work something interesting out in my brain, or I'd be listening to something fascinating like a podcast. And I really wanted to concentrate because, again, I love the stimulation, but I was constantly being interrupted. And this was really the part where I felt like a terrible person because they're so cute and their voices are so sweet when they're little. And like, geez, I'm their mother. Like, I'm their whole world. And so it's a good thing that they constantly want to talk to me and come to me for things. And I do want to cultivate that. I don't ever want them to stop coming to me and feeling like they, can't talk to me about anything, right? No matter how big or small. So this was something that I needed to intentionally work through and reconcile. And it became a balancing act that I still have to work to maintain today. Number 4 is making friends. There's no other way to say it. It can be hard for high IQ moms to find other mothers who share similar interests or ways of thinking. Casual parenting conversations or moms at the park might feel unengaging. And the fact of the matter is that high IQ moms just have to be more intentional about creating their tribe. Number five is fundamentally feeling like you're a failure and that there's something inherently wrong with you. This is a tough one. I remember as a younger mom almost being in awe at the women who could just parent. Like that was all they did. They parented their kids during the day, they cleaned their house during nap time, they watched Netflix with their spouses in the evenings, and the thing they were most looking forward to was an upcoming vacation or a girls' night. I thought about how lucky they were to love and desire such a simple life. I thought about how lucky their kids and their spouses were to not have to share her with a brain that needed more. I envied these women, and it took a lot of prayer, some amazing conversations with my husband and other moms, and some deep healing to learn to love the way that God made me. But that doesn't mean that I don't still sometimes wish I were simpler, less complicated. Maybe you resonate. So, how do we manage it? While I'm not an expert, I have managed to come up with 4 systems that work really well for me and my family, plus the bonus one at the end, so remember to stick with me until then. And if you're enjoying this video so far, would you give me a thumbs up and maybe even subscribe? I'm really trying to grow this channel, so that would mean so, so much. Okay, so let's dive into the solution. Okay, first solution is going from intellectual isolation to freedom to pursue your passions. Honestly, if I could rename this first tip, it would be to marry and have kids with the right person. I really can't overemphasize this enough. It's absolutely integral that you marry someone who loves and respects you for you, someone who loves your mind, your intellect, who wants you to have projects that are stimulating, who wants to share in the parenting responsibilities so that you can have the time and space to make use of the gift that God has given you. But you might be watching this and thinking, oh no, it's too late for me. But I want you to stop and consider, have you ever truly communicated your need for silence, alone time, and the need to pursue your passions with your spouse? You as a human being deserve that time, at least weekly, if not daily, to do things that feel fun, to pursue what feels important to you. And I'm sure with some healthy conversation, some trial and error, and maybe even a great therapist, you can create an amazing balance with your spouse so that you both have room within the relationship to grow into the fullness of who God created you to be. Practically in my marriage, we have solved the problem by my husband supporting me and pursuing my passions part-time. So my younger children go to a super cute preschool 4 days a week, and during that time, I do everything. I take care of the house, do laundry, run errands, meal prep. But I also make time to accomplish my school assignments and build my YouTube. So when he gets home from work, he helps around the kitchen and bring the kids to bed. And then on weekends, we do co-parent fully. But it's still a lot to juggle. But by minimizing our possessions and simplifying my household chores, we make it work. So if you have more questions about the specifics of how I handle household tasks and outside support, drop those questions below and I'll make sure to share more about that specifically. Okay, the next one is we went from perfectionism to humility. When it came to perfectionism, I really had to take this to God. I realized that expecting myself to be perfect was a backwards manifestation of the sin of pride. This was a humbling experience for me because I had to come to the realization that I am not meant, I was never created to be the end all be all for my children and spouse. I am definitely not God, but I was created to be intelligent. So God must have a plan. Once I realized that, clinically speaking, perfect mothers actually tend to raise poorly adjusted children, and that mothers who actually fail their children in small, manageable ways better teach their children how to cope with the realities of the real world. I started reminding myself of that every time I felt mired in self doubt. I had to recognize that doing the best I can is all I can do, and every day I try to be a better parent. I had to come to the realization that since I and all of my friends were raised by imperfect parents, we turned out pretty good. So I need to let my children also have the experience of life that God intended for them. And that experience does not include being raised by a perfect mother. Otherwise, God never would have given them to me. So I need to let that idea go. The next tip is going from struggling to balance alone time to giving myself enough time to be fully present for my children and my family. Making the decision to send my youngest to preschool was hard, I'll admit that. When my older two were little, I had a nanny who would come to the house twice a week to play with my daughters so that I could have that time. but it became such a headache because it was only a part-time gig. So nannies would quit in favor of higher paying jobs with more hours. And they would, get sick and not be able to take care of them. And even when my girls just knew I was home, even if I locked myself in my office or in my laundry room, they would still cry for me. And that was so hard to deal with. So I decided enough was enough and I signed them up. And let me tell you, it was the best decision. My kids love their teachers. They love playing with other kids their age, and they are always so happy to see me when I pick them up. And I, in turn, get a good 20 to 25 hours a week to do what I need to do so that when I get them at the end of the day, not only do I have a clean house, but I miss them. I am so excited to see them. I have so much more patience, and I'm not tired from staying up late trying to catch up on reading from school or laundry or what have you. Turns out the exact thing that I felt guilty for doing was the thing that makes me a better mom and wife. Now, school may not be the right solution for you. I'll tell you, I would have much preferred a grandmother or something of the sort, but we don't live near family, and my husband's job demands that he actually go into work. So we've had to create our own village. But I truly believe that if you ask him, God will put the right people in your path to support you and to love your family. Number 4 is I went from struggling to make friends to intentionally seeking and pursuing friendships, both in person and online. Okay, this one took me a long time to master, and I will tell you, it really took me observing women who are great at making friends to get this one down. I grew up not really knowing how to make friends, and most of my friendships came from proximity. So we go to school together, we're friends. We ride the bus or live in the same neighborhood, we're friends. You're not mean, we get along okay, and voila, a friendship is born. But as adults, friendships are expensive, and not necessarily in the monetary sense, but in the time that they take away from our other priorities. So here's how I've created a life with lots of friends. So first, I thought deeply and intentionally about what I want in a friend. For me, we need to share similar values. I need to respect their spouse and the way that they parent their children. I need to feel better about myself when I'm with them, not worse. And they can't be boring. They have to have something interesting to talk about other than community gossip, their problems, or their kids. Okay, this one's really important. I thought about who in my life already had these qualities. And so for me, a lot of these women were actually women I knew through my marketing business. So I started with online friends first. I intentionally pursued them. I sent messages, voice notes, and I gave value. Side note, in every single relationship ever, start by giving value. It amazes me how many people don't do this. So, how did I give value? Well, I shared myself with them, what I was working on, what I was thinking about at the moment, but I also took a deep interest in them and their projects. What's important to them? What are they working on right now? And then when they would share, I would respond by giving them my thoughts and seeking to help them however I could. Is there an introduction I could make that would get them closer to their goal? Is there a perspective I could share that may give them food for thought? Is there a book or a resource recommendation I could make? As an example, one value add you could make to a friend is by sharing this video. Imagine what a compliment that would be if you sent a message like, "Hey friend, you're so very intelligent and such a good mom. This video made me think of you. I hope you enjoy it and that you're having a great day." Think about how loved and special receiving that message would make someone feel. Now, when it came to in-person friendships, I often use my kids as an in. So if there's a really cool mom at school or someone I want to get to know who has kids the same age as mine, I set up a play date or I invite their family to dinner so that we can chat and get to know each other better. This is one of the reasons why I host fun birthday parties for my kids and their classmates, because I want to get to know the other kids and the parents in the class to see if there's someone who stands out or who I have a lot in common with. After that, there's not much to it, right? Like just plan a lunch date on a Saturday or send them a reel or an article that reminds you of them. Let them know how you're doing, remember their birthday, and check in on them. And hopefully they will start to do the same for you. The idea is for you to have a lot in common and for the relationship to develop organically without much force. Okay, that was a lot of information, but are you ready for the bonus tip? You've stayed, you've waited till the end. Thank you for being here, and I'm so excited to share this with you. Now, I know I may lose some of you here, but it's something that I can't even describe the impact that it's had on my life. Honestly, it's completely unreal, and I would be doing you a disservice if I didn't share it with you. So, something that I discovered about 5 years ago that has made a monumental impact on my life is the study and practice of astrology. My studies and life experience has led me into this reconciliation between Christian theology and alternative spirituality. And as I studied more about the history of Christianity and astrology, I can't help but notice how much astrology points to God. I've come to learn that astrology is the language of God. It's one of the ways that God reaches out to us and gives us information about ourselves so that we can, in turn, know more about our Creator. And God, in His goodness, doesn't just make this known to us through intuitive hits, weird horoscopes in the newspaper, or good feelings, right? He makes Himself known through astrology, both in history and in the Bible. If you want to know more about my case for astrology from a Christian perspective, there are 2 videos popping up right now that you can click to check out. I hope that this video helps the intelligent mothers out there feel less alone. If you know an intelligent mother who could really use this encouragement, please do send this to her. And I'll talk to you again soon. Bye, everyone.